On this day, 80 years ago, a generational icon was born. The Railway series books were a runaway success phenomenon. The first book's popularity led to 25 more from the original author, the Reverend Wilbur Awdry, and later an additional 16 books by his son, Christopher Awdry, of whom the original first book was written for by his father. After the majority of the books are written, and a few troubles getting off the ground, a television series adapting from books premiered 41 years ago, in 1984, named after the most popular book in the series, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends lasted for 24 seasons before ending in 2021. In 2025, we celebrate 80 years of this icon of a tank engine in its original book run under the Awdry family. One of my earliest memories of discovering Thomas is pretty vague, but I am 90% certain I've got it generally down. Picture this. I was around 3 or 4 years old, and I was in Cartoon Cuts, which was this weird barbershop chain that would play cartoons for kids while they're getting haircuts. I remember sitting in one of those chairs, and on that screen played a DVD of Classic Thomas. Somehow I remembered the exact episode was Thomas in the Trucks, and that was the first episode I ever watched. Since then, I was hooked on it. I was a kid during the prime hit era merch, and so I lived through Thomas's merchandise prime, as you can imagine, and grew up with mostly the hit era, but I did end up watching a lot of the classic series as well on the DVDs. I would constantly check them out from my local libraries whenever I could to watch them. I was the Thomas kid. My interest peaked around Miss Yellen Rescue's release in Thomas. 6-year-old me was so hyped for this movie. I had all the merch of it. But I'll get into that in another video, I guess. But shortly around Blue Man Mystery's release, when I was around 8 or so, my interest in Thomas faded a bit. I think this happened to most of us around this age. I was one of the many kids that fell into the pipeline into the Cars hyperfixation. I was one of those Cars 2's kids. Eventually, I bounced around between different hyperfixations until around 2018 or so, when 14-year-old me stumbled upon Thomas again. I rediscovered the Bachman vs. Hornby videos by Simon A.C. Martin. That led me to falling down the rabbit hole into the Thomas fandom. I had looked around on an older account for a few years until making my main fandom account on Twitter in early 2021. That was when I properly joined the Thomas fandom. I then uploaded my first train video showcasing my old models in summer 2022. That video exploded and catapulted my channel to what it is today. Needless to say, I owe a lot to this series and its creators. I will forever be in the debts to the Awdrys, Britt Allcroft, David Min, and the book illustrators. My tribute to this franchise's big milestone anniversary is this model of Thomas itself, based on the original illustrations of the first book by William Middleton, with a few elements drawn from all eras of the series. Now, addressing the elephant in the room, Thomas never appeared in the first book, and Middleton only illustrated the first edition of the first book, as Wilbur Awdry had Dalby go back and redo them. My model here specifically depicts a what-if scenario. What if Middleton stayed on as illustrator? And I feel this model also honors the very early roots, when the Railway series was at first, in inception, a storybook world, before it gradually became more successful and became much more of a real world. That is what you see before you now. There isn't a backstory per se for this model, so I'll just jump straight into how I made it. Here we go. Middleton Thomas, as I like to call him, was made using a stock standard Bachman Thomas. I first removed all the lining and numbering, as they were already coming off this pre-owned model I bought on eBay. After that, I did some serious sanding around the sides. I first used 80 grit sandpaper to remove the thick paint coating until I got down to the bare white plastic almost. I then used 3000 grit wet dry sandpaper to smooth it over. I used this sandpaper dry as I wanted to have a slightly rougher finish. If it were tile smooth, then the paint wouldn't stick as well. After that, I discovered that the buffers were actually crooked, and so I just ripped them off and glued on double low gauge Marklin BR88 buffers, originally 3D printed by Noah, aka the LBSC Thomas. Shapeways went under a while back, and these aren't available anymore. I somehow still had a handful of these left, so I just plopped them onto the model. Nice tie to the TV series roots, which the models were made from Markland engines. I then primed the whole body in my usual gray acrylic. The next step were the actual colors. I wanted to be as accurate to the illustrations as possible when translating design traits onto the model. I mostly use Edward from the Middleton illustrations as my inspiration. So I had the dome painted gold, the lining was black, and the roof the same color as the body, among other design traits. I used Apple Barrel's Admiral Blue for the main body color, Flag Red for the buffer beams, model colors Gold for the dome, Apple Barrel Matte Black for the lining, a light gray for the running board top, and Apple Barrel's Pewter Gray for the running board sides and wheels. I actually had to double check this, but the running board sides are intentionally darker than the top. This isn't a lighting thing either. I checked like every illustration. They're actually painted darker. And so I translated this onto the model. Painting the wheels was agonizing. I made sure to clean the wheels before painting, and very carefully used toothpicks to go along every edge of the wheels. Thankfully, the paint happened to be a little thinner, so I was able to seep into crevices easily. One of the last things I did in the model was add the face. I knew from the jump which face I wanted to use, that being the Thomas Wooden Railway 2003 edition Thomas face. It's the exact size as the Bachmann face, and I really like the look of it. I sourced a busted up one from eBay and chopped off the face, and then very carefully repainted the eyebrows as they were a little damaged. On the model itself, I removed the old face and pulled out the eye mechanism. The very last thing I did on the model was give it a nice matte clear coat. I didn't spray the wheels as that would ruin the model's ability to run, so for now, they're just going to be just unclear coated. And after a good test run, Middleton Thomas was done. I am so happy with how this turned out. It looks way better than I ever imagined. I also like it because I think it's probably a first in the fandom. I don't think I've seen anyone really do like a first edition Thomas model. Someone probably has by now, but if someone has, do tag me. I would love to see it. Before you all go, I would like to make a big announcement related to the Interurban Engines project. I have decided to scrap the current rendition of the project. Don't worry, the whole thing isn't dead per se, but it'll be much different. The stories originally drafted for it will be turned into episodes of my own official series. That's right, I am finally going to be making my own series with my models. Portertunes, a semi-unserious PG-13 model series. Now, Portertunes is still a long ways away, and it entirely depends on when I get my own place and layout. But I have been making progress on it wherever I can. I already have the first 3 seasons outlined, and each season will have a full set of 26 episodes each. I am also slowly chipping out outlines for seasons 4 and beyond. This is something I am very excited for, and I cannot wait for its release. Again, it's still a long ways away, but if I were to give a vague release window, I would say 2026 at the earliest, if not, probably 2027. Ideally, Season 1 will be fully written by the time I have my own place in layouts and start filming. I will try to share updates with you all as I progress. Portertunes is coming soon. One more thing before you all go. I have a fun little challenge. A while back, I made this little edit of a Dinoco Thomas as a joke, and I've come across it again while looking through my files. And I kind of want to make it in model form, but I know it's not really a wise financial decision to do. So I'll let you all decide what I do based on a like goal. My most liked video has around 550-ish likes. So I'll tell you what, if this video reaches 600 likes or more, I will make Dinoco Thomas in model form. It is up to you, my dear viewer. Will Dinoco Thomas become a reality? That is up to you, my friend. And don't worry, there isn't a time limit on this or whatever. So as long as this video hits 600 likes at any given time, even if it's years away, I will fulfill the obligation and make Dinoco Thomas a model reality. My video schedule for May is pretty exciting. I have a video essay about a Thomas movie coming out next week, and then a train video discussing trains outside of Thomas. Those I am very excited for, and I cannot wait for you all to see them. So yeah, big plans ahead. Thank you all very much for watching. Happy 80th anniversary to Thomas Tank Engine and Friends and the Railway series. And here's to 80 more in the future.